in terms of the pickiness, so that all makes sense for the allergies. I think we got that down. For picky eaters, this is something I think we all struggle with, and it's a
Mm-hmm.
really frustrating part of raising a kid, at least for me.
Mm-hmm.
And especially because of the landscape that we live in, where there's just so much around with like that's carb heavy, that's sugar heavy, and
Mm-hmm.
they narrow down what they choose to eat because of what's presented to
Mm-hmm.
them. So especially
Yes.
when you're doing plant-based with your kids, can you give me insight into like how you do this successfully? Just it seems so
Yeah.
hard.
So it's actually not as hard as you would expect. I mean, like once you kind of figure out what to do and you kind of have a formula for it, it gets a lot easier. So kind of the crux of what I teach in my online program, Leafy Littles, is actually like how to prepare a kid's plate as sort of a framework for what you're going to make for your whole family, what you're going to offer. So I generally say you're going to start with one familiar food, and that's something that they like, that they're already eating. So that can be anything. It can be a processed food or not. But the rule is that you're going to put 3 different things on their plate, and you have to be okay with them eating any of those 3 in any order and in any amount. So if you aren't cool with it, like if you don't want them to have a cupcake for dinner, you're not going to put a cupcake on the plate. Okay. If you're okay with them eating like some Ritz crackers and maybe that's their dinner, if you pair it with 2 other things, I'm like, okay, you can put the Ritz crackers on the plate. So one familiar food. And then the second one is a fresh fruit, a fresh food. So I would also make this something familiar that they're already eating, that they already like. So maybe let's say, okay, we went with Ritz crackers as choice number 1. Choice number 2 is maybe something like sliced strawberries or hummus, or maybe it's green peas, or maybe it's peaches, something that your kid already likes and knows that they're going to eat for sure. And they might not eat it first, but maybe they'll get there. Like they'll start with the Ritz crackers and they're going to make their way and maybe try some of whatever the fresh food is. And then the third one is a variation of whatever the rest of the family is eating. So if it's taco night at your house, you're going to take some guacamole on a tortilla and wrap it up and stick it on their plate. And maybe that's where you start, right? Like something super simple that you think is going to be like at least approachable for them, that like once they're done with the other 2 things that you know they're going to try, they're going to like get used to expecting something unexpected on their plate, and eventually they're going to get used to trying it. So that's kind of the approach that I take. And I think that works because, number one, I don't want people to have to be a short order cook where they're making chicken nuggets 5 nights a week for their kids while they're also making this huge ordeal dinner for the rest of their family. Like you want your kids to eventually start to eat whatever everybody else is eating. And so that's kind of the way that I tell people to try.
So it's like a gateway food. Like put
Mm-hmm.
the gateway food
Yes.
that you know they're gonna like to open it up for
Yep.
the other stuff.
Yeah, because
Okay,
if you have
what
a
I
picky
know.
eater, they struggle with like getting the process started. So like a picky eater is going to sit there and be like, I'm not doing this. I don't like this. I'm not into this. And so you have to give them something like where you can meet them where they are so that they can at least initiate the process of starting to eat. And eating always begets more eating. So, like if you don't want those chips and salsa, like don't have the first one because you're going to keep eating them, right? It's the same for kids.
Yeah, and what about
Yeah.
like for me? I know that I would think, okay, the Ritz crackers are there, the fruit's there, and then the the protein packed whatever the family's eating is there, and the kid touches none of that and like pounds the Ritz crackers and then says, "Oh, I'm good. Time for dessert."
Mm-hmm.
Like that's
Yeah.
that's tough. That I could see that happening.
I think so. But I think you also have to remember that, like, if that happens, you have to kind of remember, like, those other foods on their plate. If you think of the total of there's 32 steps from being around food to putting it in your mouth and swallowing it, they're actually super, super close. Like, if they're not flinging it across the room or they're not like throwing a huge tantrum that there's a slice of strawberries on their plate, it means they're like this close to actually eating it. They're so close that like you as a mom should actually think, okay, like that was a win. They didn't touch it, or maybe they played with it, maybe they smelled it, chewed on it, spit it out. They are so close. And so you just have to kind of man the course because it's going to happen. And there might be a couple nights where like your kid just eats the crackers and asks for more crackers, and you have to make a decision like, okay, am I going to say yes or no? But the idea is that you're offering them 2 choices. Like one is a processed food or not. You could also do like another fresh option, whatever, something else that they already like, with something that is fresh that that they already like. So obviously you have to be judicious with what you choose. But if you're choosing 2 things that they're going to eat, then the rest is sort of like, it doesn't really matter. Like if they have Ritz crackers and strawberries tonight, okay, let's hope that tomorrow they have a really good breakfast, you know?
Yeah, so again, perspective, and like one meal is not a make it or break it, because
Mm-hmm.
the rest will come in time, and you have to it's
Mm-hmm.
actually, it's consistency of bringing everything to the table, like all the of the inconsistency. You got to bring all the new stuff to the table constantly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's good to get them used to that, right? Like they should start to expect, what did mommy make tonight? Like, okay, maybe I'll try it, maybe I won't. But sometimes if you get them to try it, they'll eat it and they'll ask for like 3 more helpings because they actually really like it. So you might be surprised, you know? Yeah. And you're definitely like playing the long game here. This is not, something that's just going to like happen overnight and get easier. You're really like putting in all this time and energy up front so that your kids will be hopefully more adventurous eaters and choose, the right foods over their entire life. Like this isn't just for now, getting them to sleep well at night. It's really like, how do we raise kids that are aware of their bodies, that know when they're hungry, when they're full? The other part about all this, and we can kind of get into it, is eliminating this hierarchy of food. So I really am an advocate for not creating that hierarchy of food. So like if you know your kid is going to get a cupcake for dessert because you have it, or you're going to throw it away or whatever, then you just put it on their plate and serve it with dinner. Like if you're okay with them eating it and you know you're going to give it to them anyway, like serve it next to their broccoli. Like they'll make their way and they're going to naturally try one and then the other. But like the goal is that they don't understand food to be healthy, unhealthy, good, bad. Like they shouldn't be having that stress. We shouldn't like impose that on them at this age, definitely. So my goal is to kind of like make sure that they see that all foods that we offer are created equal. They can have as much or as little as they want. But in order to set up that environment, you really have to be judicious with what you're offering.
Yeah, so I'm going to give a different perspective, because this is one that,
Okay.
all respect, I am very, very skeptical of. I don't believe all foods are created equally, because these are like really processed foods, and the sugars that our bodies, our minds, like evolutionarily, were not known or meant to take in. So like when we give them, I feel
Yes.
like they do have this extra addiction part of things, where it's like that hit of dopamine when they get that chocolate and sugar
Mm-hmm.
rush, that will
Yeah.
mean I want more, I want more, I want more of that. I'm never touching the other thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I do believe there's like animal studies on that, like
Oh
animals
yeah,
won't go back to the good
absolutely.
food after they've had the processed CRAP, and
Mm-hmm.
then it's
Yeah,
just so, this is what I'm
totally.
now bringing, like you can't teach a kid like
Mm-hmm.
don't touch, they're all foods are
Yeah.
created equal.
Okay, so yes, I don't think that all foods are created equal in the whole wide world. That's what I mean. Like on your kid's plate, all the foods that you offer should be created equal, right? In terms of getting them comfortable with trying new things, eating new things. Like I don't want you to perseverate over, oh my gosh, they ate 6 pieces of cauliflower and like they didn't touch their whatever. Like I just don't want you to get into the nitty gritty of how much of their plate they ate, because we want to create this environment where whatever they're offered is a fair choice. And by fair choice, I mean like you're not offering them, a Twinkie versus apple slices. I think any human being would be hardwired to choose this highly palatable processed food. And so it's sort of like eliminating that as a choice. Like a fair choice would be something like blueberries or strawberries, or, cauliflower or broccoli, or corn on the cob or baked beans, something like that. So yes, but it's really more about creating that environment where they're not really ever subjected to these unfair choices, because you're not bringing that stuff into your home or into your kitchen for them. Does that make sense?
Okay, yeah.
But I
And so,
completely agree with you. Like, yes, not all foods are created equal. So I don't want to
yeah.
I don't want that to be the takeaway, but I want you to create an environment for your kids where they feel comfortable eating anything in any amount that you offer, because you're not offering them a bunch of CRAP, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.